I'm sorry I've got to scoot over the next 15 minutes, so we won't have your half an hour. But can I start by thanking the organisers for inviting me. The International Federation of Journalists is indeed very proud to be associated with this project. And we are pleased to be among the first organisation to assist with this initial seminars. And such a project, I think, as Deborah said, it couldn't have come at a more opportune time. As a global organisation, the International Federation of Journalists today deals increasingly with the deepening global crisis, the economic downturn, the conflict in many parts of the world, the climate change, and we find this, there is an even greater need for a journalism that breaks down walls of prejudice, ignorance, and powerlessness. The media itself is in an unprecedented shake-up, not seen for nearly 100 years. Convergent technologies have changed the way journalists work, and market models no longer deliver richer return. As a result, employers are cutting back on costs, creating precarious workplaces where high standards of journalism are increasingly difficult to achieve. There is today a big debate everywhere, a debate about the future of the media and a vision for journalism. Our next Congress, which takes place in May, that will be the main theme of it, the future of journalism. And this kind of seminar is also part of this debate. The IFJ, as David has said, represents 600,000 journalists worldwide from 120 countries. And representing journalists from a very wide variety of backgrounds, who speak scores of languages and dialects, and from a mosaic of races and religions. So we may expect that issues of diversity, multiculturalism, ethnic and religious divide, even xenophobia and minority rights should be on top of the agenda. But I'm sorry to disappoint you that they are not, and they have never been, for the global world of journalism. The only place where some affiliates forced the IFJ to open a space for these issues has been Western Europe. And even in Western Europe, it only happened in a very few countries. And in this presentation, I will appear to be lopsided by the predominance of what happened here in the UK for the last 30 years. But that doesn't make this experience less valuable. On the contrary, it has been the best example of what individual journalists, academia, organization of journalists, media organization, authorities, and civil society have done to confront inequality and discrimination. In fact, I believe that non-discrimination is a central tenet of ethical journalism, and who can access the profession, what will be the makeup of our profession in the future are of great importance today. And I will start with a proclamation that I'm sure all of you would know, which was made by a high-profile media executive who put this issue in the public domain, and in the process made it news for the first time. And I will say he even started a minor earthquake. It is more than 10 years since the then BBC Director General Greg Dyke became the first media executive to do a mea culpa and declare publicly that the organization he ran was, and I quote, hideously white, saying that its race relations are as bad as those in some police forces. In a radio interview with BBC Scotland, he revealed that the BBC was almost entirely white, and that the organization has failed to tackle the problem. Also, he didn't go as far as to say that the corporation was racist. Dyke remarked that the BBC was unable to retain staff from ethnic minorities and questioned whether they were made to feel welcome in the organization. This is what he said 10 years ago. I think the BBC is hideously white. I think the BBC is a predominantly white organization. The figure we have at the moment suggests that quite a lot of people from different ethnic backgrounds that you attract to the BBC leave. Maybe they don't feel at home, maybe they don't feel welcome. At the time, there were not many executives of that caliber who were prepared to say that the ethnic makeup of the organization was indeed an acid test for them, and that they had a moral duty to reflect the diversity of 21st century Britain. In the newspaper industry, none of the executives were spurred by what Dyke said to stick up their neck and comment publicly on the state of the workforce. It was not until 2004 that the Society of Editors produced that famous report that was referred to, Diversity in the Newsroom, Employment of Minority Ethnic Journalists in Newspaper. And the report, as far as I understand it, was the brainchild of the chair of his training committee, Peter Cowell, who did an excellent job in drilling down into the diversity issue and providing a clear picture of the situation. Most importantly, he made an initial set of practical, achievable recommendations. Now, the report started by a survey, journalist at work, that was published by the Journalist Forum, which was another group, which was chaired by Ian Hargreaves. And based on very reliable data from a very broad questionnaire, it showed that 96% of journalists were white. The paper ran two concurrent arguments. One was a commercial one. Why should people buy a newspaper that has nothing to say to them? And the second was a moral one. Why should readers from communities perhaps as much as 30% minority ethnic have any commitment to a paper that didn't bother to employ any such people? So the reaction from editors used in the survey were very fairly predictable and have been heard before. They range from problem, what problem, to the more frequent, I never get any applications. And however, inspired by the progress made in the broadcasting sector, in particular, the Society of Editors Training Committee set out to push the whole of the newspaper industry to square up to the challenge and introduce changes. Producing the report was a starting point, but the report went further in producing achievable recommendations, advising newspapers to take immediate and decisive action. The recommendation ranged from building closer link with their minority ethnic communities to establishing bursaries for young people from this community available and emulating the broadcasting industry in setting up cultural diversity network. But long before these captain of industries started coming out with their shells and getting agitated about the underrepresentation of ethnic minority journalists within their organization, journalists themselves started almost 30 years before